Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 4th episode of our In Real Time series. This is called Explosions, Drums, and Rolodexes, Fiction Coming to Life. And I'm sure you're wondering, what in the world is this? It'll be a quicker one, but I'm going to explain just a little bit of how things are changing. And in this past year alone, the energy itself and the way it shows up for us, the way the world shows itself, is changing. And this is the easiest way I can explain it. And it's two separate examples, but I think you're going to understand on this awakening journey what this looks like. Like, what is awakening anyways? What is it supposed to be? What is this ascension journey that we're on? And what are people experiencing out there? So from myself and my personal learning straight to you, this is what I went through. This is what happened to me. And this may help you make sense of perhaps what you're already going through yourself. The first thing we'll go into is an example. It just happened a couple of weeks ago, I think. Time flies right now, but I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I was watching a YouTuber, a wonderful lady that does oracle and tarot readings, etc. She specifically sort of scries through scrolls and different sort of ink and things like that. So the way she did this collective reading, it was really unique because as she was interpreting it and being guided, and she has a lot of divine downloads and she has a lot of sort of clairsentience and other clairs that are active within her. So she can, she'll see things, she hears things, she feels things. And it's like just a story that unfolds as she keeps talking and walking you through the reading. And the most interesting part was, as she was talking, as she was like unfolding the story, things started to happen for real on my side. So I'm watching this video, and it wasn't live. It was recorded earlier that day, whatever, like 4-hour time difference, yada, yada. So I'm listening to her, and here's an example. So she's saying, oh, okay, and what's showing up is this like explosion of activity that's going to happen in your life. And then, no word of a lie, all of a sudden, outside, down the block, this car starts backfiring down the street, just bang, bang, explosion after explosion. And I just kind of look, and I'm like, okay, sure. Carrying on, right? And she keeps talking, and then the next thing she's like, and there's these drums coming to them, and there's huge gongs, and they're like banging together, and drum beat, heavy drum beat. And then all of a sudden, from behind me outside, this car pulls into the parking lot behind me, or whatever. It's downstairs, it's way behind. But they must have had their windows open, and there was like booming bass, just boom, boom, boom. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay. And then, we got through that one, and there was more things that happened in that. And I was on to another beautiful oracle and tarot reader, really gifted lady, just hundreds of thousands of followers. Really interesting insight, the way that her stuff comes through. The next day in the morning, where I am in my living room, it's just windows all around, and I'm blessed to be near a park and a lake and all those good things. So she's again, doing this tarot reading, and as she's doing the cards, and she brings up this card and she flashes it, and it's Eagle Spirit. And I'm like, oh, very nice. And all of a sudden, outside my window, there goes an eagle going right by. So this is how it shows up. This is how we talked about how the universe mirrors things back to you, how your world is showing up for you in different ways. But this is how we call it, or I'm calling it, fiction coming to life. It's not really fiction. No, not at all. But I know for those of us that when we see readings or hear stories or things, to us it's not quite real, right? It's someone on the other side, or the other side of a TV screen, or whatever it is. Even if they're right in front of you, sometimes it can feel like, is this for real? Do I really want to believe in this? I don't know. If the people that you are drawn to are authentic and they are truly channeling divine energy and spirit and guides and angels, etc., then yes, it is real. I don't care if you're going to have a Reiki session, to have your cards read, to have your tea leaves read, whatever the magic is that they pull through them, yes, it's time to start believing in the reality of it because it is showing up in our daily lives in material form for real. So I wanted to leave you with that because I think it's really important to understand what this can look like. And here's another great example, and this is just from a few days ago. It was a reading where they were saying, hey, it's going to be highly volatile today. And it is, because the energies that are coming in right now are out of this world. They're truly amazing. I know you guys are aware out there, the solar flares like crazy, the northern lights or the aurora borealis. You're going to hear about KPI indexes every day and things like that. People are paying attention to the cosmos way more these days, which is a beautiful thing, whether it's meteor showers going through or a comet going by, or fair warning that there is massive solar flares and coronal mass ejections coming from the sun. And they're going to bring the most amazing light display, but be fair warned, you may lose your radio transmission, etc., today. Blackouts, things like that. That kind of energy coming on the planet does a lot. But the question sort of begs is, why is it happening now? Why is it here? Well, it's here to transition us from Pluto going through what it's been all this time to Aquarius. We're going into the Age of Aquarius. It's the golden age. And it starts this month. It starts now. Like everything is shifting. Huge planets, generational planets are shifting. All of that energy is shifting and it's getting us ready. One way it gets us ready is it showers us. It just pummels us with beautiful energy to get us shifting, moving, getting the old junk to come up to the surface so we can deal with it, finally, transmute it, and let it go. There's no way to do it other than that. And I know we've spoken of this earlier, but the fact of the matter is, when you have stuff come up for you that you're like, I thought I dealt with that. Didn't we just deal with that last year? But it's in the way it shows up for you. How are you dealing with it, right? If you dealt with job loss 5 years ago and it was huge and it was a massive shift and you didn't see it coming, blah, blah, blah. And then in the past week or so, you've got notification that there's going to be a 2-week manual shutdown at your local factory and you're going to be short of work for 2 weeks, but it's going to come back online, so it's a blip, but it's kind of the same energy. That's the stuff that's coming up for us. And then there's the other side of it, which is the big stuff. We've dealt with it on our planet before. Take a look at what happened in 2020. Take a look at the Me Too movement. Take a look at, especially here in Canada, what's happened with our Indigenous culture and families and societies, and as a nation, when we had to take a really good hard look at what we used to do with Indigenous schooling and now what we call truth and reconciliation, because we had discoveries of ancient remains and cremains of children that were in the school system, and there was a lot of loss of life at that time, which is a horrible time in our history, and it's a very dark thing to look at. It's a dark part of our society and history that no one wanted to admit to, no one wanted to look at. Everyone just wanted to pretend like it never happened, except for those that were still suffering. So the energy comes and the earth purges, and she purges through, if nothing else, literally pushing bones up out of the soil to be seen, so that the voices can be heard and that energy, those souls, can finally be released. We dive into ourselves. We acknowledge what we no longer wish to see. We let that pain rise up. We feel it. We allow it to be felt. We don't push it down. Don't stuff it down. You allow it to be felt. You let it rise. You let it flow through you. And then you let it go. And in that letting go is the gift. It's just like when you forgive someone, you might not do it to their face, But you forgive them in the end for whatever they did, because you know what? It releases you. It's really not about them. So this comes back to the energies because they're highly volatile. And from my own experience, just the other day, I mean literally 2 days ago, it starts with the most beautiful, uplifting thing that could have happened to me that day in the morning. Gorgeous confirmation of things I'm supposed to do in this world. And then I basically just got my heart ripped out later that night by something else that was happening that was a reminder to me of who am I to be in this world. So yeah, it's like a roller coaster out there. And then the very next day, you're back on, wow, things are beautiful. This happened and this happened. And it's so interesting because this whole week has been just a wild ride. And then it seemed like kind of yesterday, last night into today, it started to just level up. I don't know. It felt like when you have a balloon that's held under the surface of the water and you're like holding it down, and then you allow it to just go bloop and up it goes. And it's at least rising onto the top of the water, if not rising out of the water, depending how much helium's in it. That's how it felt. And it continues to feel that way even now. So literally today, Saturn went direct. And it's the setup for 6 days from now when we're full on into Aquarian mode. It's here. And it feels like it's here. And it feels like things have shifted even dramatically in the past 2 days. And with today's full moon and everything else going on, yeah, the energy is here. Let's talk about the Rolodex, because that's a fun one. This is how our angels and guides and things just get things rocking and rolling for us. I was told a long time ago that for me, the way that sort of my soul journey is working and the way I'm meant to kind of operate on this planet is I will just sort of have things that I'll need, and I won't necessarily know why, but it'll become evident later. So, people would say, oh, okay, well, 5 years ago, you got this collector card thing. I don't know, just say it was a baseball card or something that you picked up out of the blue. It was just cool looking. You picked it up, you stashed it somewhere. And then 5 years later down the road, someone's like, I so wish I had this baseball card. I used to have one as a kid and I loved it so much and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, wow, I know I have that baseball card. And it's a friend or a loved one. And you're like, I'm going to give it to them for their birthday because that is just going to bring the most absolute happiness and joy. And it does. You do it and they're just blown away. And it's like, how did you ever get that? And you're like, it just kind of happened. Okay, so there's the setup. Here's how it really looked. And this was just this past July. July. So we had a flea market with a group that I'm with, and I was just there for a few hours that day, walking around, seeing things, what's on the tables, etc. And some people bring things that they're just happy to give away. Like, it's not a big deal, One of the things that a gentleman had on him was a Rolodex, like a full-on old-school Rolodex with all the cards, and it was perfect working condition. And they're like, hey, could you use this? I'm like, I haven't had one of those in years, but that would be funky. It's so nice to almost have these older things these days because we're so reliant on technology. And if and when it goes down, and it does, well, all your contacts just go kablooey. You need a phone book, or you need something to remember how to contact somebody the old-fashioned way with a phone that plugs in the wall, not your cell phone if that goes down. But just to know where people live and just the things that we used to have that we just, wow. We are way too reliant on electronic and digital stuff these days. But anyways, I digress. So yes, I was like, I will happily take that Rolodex. Thank you very much. So I had it in my hand. I was kind of cradling it in my arm a little bit. I kept walking around. And about 20 minutes later, I don't even think it was that long, I just so happened to be around a different group of people and they were chatting. And this gentleman was like, if things happen or whatever, I'm going to have to go back to the old school. I'm going to have to find myself a Rolodex. I'm standing beside him at this moment. I kind of had my back to him and I turned around and I looked at him like, well, if you really want one, I can help you out with that. And I held out my hand with the Rolodex in it. I mean, he looked at me, I looked at him. It was that moment of, you have got to be joking right now. But we just busted gut laughing. I mean, he was saying it facetiously. He was just being funny. And I was kind of being funny back. I wasn't really going to give it to him. I was like, I'm happy to have it for myself. But in that moment, you could not have lined it up any better. Not at all. This is where I'm telling you that the universe loves a good punchline. And I will probably name a future series that in and of itself, because there's a lot to tell. But I wanted to tell that to you guys today because I want you to know how things will show up for you. It might not be that quick. It might not be, the 10 or 20 minute span of, well, here's something you never thought you would need, but you take it. And then 10 minutes later, someone needs it and you're able to supply it. But it does happen. It's the simplest example I can give you. And this is how things are speeding up. So if you find in your world that you're being gifted with something or something draws your attention and you're like, I don't know why I need this, but I think I really want to grab that. Use your intuition. It is your intuition that's reaching out. It's your body, your soul, all that is you saying, I know more than you do right now. So just trust that you need this thing that you really are thinking you want. Take a chance on it, even if it doesn't make sense now. Go tuck it away, and I trust that you will need it in the short while ahead. And trust me that you're going to need it soon. And when it comes up, you are going to amaze yourself that you had, number one, the wherewithal and the foresight to follow your intuition, to pick up that thing because it made you ready and prepared for what came next. Whoever needed it, even if it's yourself. In that moment that it's required, it's the perfect answer to the perfect thing. You will be so grateful and happy in that moment. It's just fun. This is how you have fun with it, okay? It's not all, oh my God, what am I doing? Pull my hair out. What's my soul mission? Am I doing it right? Am I good enough? The answer is yes, you're good enough. Yes, you're meant to be here. Don't doubt it. It will appear to you as you need it. You're going to figure it out just like I'm figuring it out every day, and it will change. And don't worry about it. Honestly, you're here to have fun. You're here to experience this life. You're here to feel through this life. You're here to feel it, because if you can imagine for a moment that on the other side, you're all energy, ephemeral, like a cloud, like the air, like the light from the sun, energy. Well, it's not like you're here on earth made all like flesh and bone, tactile, able to hug your pet, hug your family, kiss your husband, kiss your kids, kiss your wife, whatever it is. That doesn't really happen on the other side the same way. And we're saying the other side just for conversation here. So enjoy this life. Enjoy being here in this beautiful body that you have, this temple of actual light that is so packed and condensed. It allows you to be tactile and to materialize things here in a way that maybe doesn't happen in other lifetimes. Enjoy it, and we'll come back to this another time. So thank you for being here. I hope this helped. I hope it echoed for you or made you laugh at the very least at the silliness that is out there and happening in the world and what it can look like, and just the brevity of it all, and just sort of the silliness of it all, but the fun of it and why we're here, and just a reminder to just have fun with it, to enjoy being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining in. I welcome you to the next episode. See you on the other side.